And so the drill that we're going to do to make this easier when we get into these situations starts with just a simple name recognition drill, right? So one of the first things I do with my young dogs is I teach them what their name is, right? So I say Fido and feed them, Fido and feed them, Fido and feed them, or whatever your dog's name is, right? Obviously, not that many Fidos these days, right? I don't know the last time somebody called their dog Fido. You know anybody named their dog Fido? No, me neither. How can we say that? Why did we say that? Was it a famous dog? Yeah, I know. It must have been a famous, who knows. All right, anyway, so tangent. So we say the dog's name, give him a piece of food. Say the dog's name, give him a piece of food repeatedly, right?
Bo. Bo. Bo.
And so if I do that 100 times, I say my dog's name and they whip around and look for a piece of food, right? And so once I've taught them to turn towards me when they hear their name for a piece of food, then I go out with the puppy in a distraction-free environment and I start to walk. And when the puppy's in front of me with their back to me, I say their name. And as soon as they turn around, I back up and I feed them. And they come towards me, just like I backed up when I did restrained recalls. And so every time I say my dog's name when they're out there, they spin around and I back up and draw them towards me and feed them, right? No distractions whatsoever. And the reason that we do this, movement away, movement helps draw the dog towards you, right? And it's easier to redirect a dog into something active than just to try to get them to change their focus. You see this all the time. You see people on the bike trail and they get off to the side with their dog and they tell their dog to sit. And then they try to get their dog to pay attention to them while the dog's sitting still there while bicyclists whiz by. And they're going, watch, watch, puppy, watch, watch. The dog's like, I can't, right? The same thing would be 10 times easier if you went, hey dog, turn, and you started backing and moving your dog and doing something active with your dog. Then they have something to put that energy into. But sitting still and not paying attention to something interesting is harder than moving into something else. And so that movement not only pulls the dog towards you, it makes it easier for them to engage in what you're doing. And also, we know from our engagement stuff and our early, just talk about food work and things like that, movement's also motivating, right? So if I'm moving it, then they're a little more motivated to chase after it as well. So now I'm in a distraction-free environment walking with my puppy gets out in front, I say their name, they spin around, I back up and I feed them and do that repeatedly. When they respond well to that, I teach them a second signal. And the second signal is going to be a physical signal because frequently verbal signals are less relevant to dogs than physical signals. Period, right? So you've heard me, I talk a lot. My dog's heard me talk a lot. Most of it doesn't mean anything to my dog, right? So the dogs are around people talking all the time. Most of it is irrelevant to them. And so getting dogs to pay attention specifically to verbal signals is harder than it is to get dogs to pay attention to physical signals. And so when you get a dog focused on something of interest to them, then it can be harder to redirect them with just a voice. And so we want some physical redirection as well. And the one we do with puppies is I do a little poke in their butt. I poke them in the butt with my finger, right? For two reasons. One, it's an easy physical cue. And two, when you get poked in the butt, you want to turn around and see what poked you, right? So it helps, right? And so when I have the puppy, now my puppy knows their name, and they'll turn on their name. So when I'm conditioning them to the butt poke, I just poke them and then say their name, right? And so now I'm walking with my puppy, and I go poke, poke, and I say their name, and they spin around, and I feed them. I poke, poke, Fido, back up, feed them. Right? And so now I have I do that a bunch of times. Now I have two signals that can help me. I'll go with their name first, but if they don't respond to the name, I can give them a little poke to help get them to turn. And so then, if I'm out walking my dog, the next step is to set up an easy distraction. So start with your friend and their dog far away, and they're walking towards you, and you guys are walking. And they're all the way across the parking lot. We're walking towards each other. As soon as you see your puppy see the other dog, redirect them back into you, their voice, and go that way. And if they don't redirect with your voice, give them a little poke back up and yay. And as they get better at that, you can make those things harder. You can get closer, you can use all kinds of stuff. And if you practice this a little bit before you need it in the world, it will be easier to redirect your dog. Now, some dogs are going to be really difficult to redirect when they get fired up. And so you may have done all this and still your puppy gets out there in the world and sees something gets all wound up and you can't get it to redirect. In those sets of circumstances, sometimes we just have to get out of the situation. So I stuff food in the dog's face, or I just grab their collar, and I turn, and off we go, and we get out, right? If you can't, you can't, right? But the more you practice this ahead of time, the better off you're going to be in terms of getting out of those situations when you're confronted with them. And then the other thing is be preemptive. If in doubt, do it sooner instead of later. Don't wait for your dog to get fixated. The longer you wait to do it, the harder it is, right? And this is especially useful not only for more friendly dogs, people tend not to worry about it, right? But it's still useful. Like we see the labs that want to run around and say hi to everybody, right? I can use the same thing to get them to try to ignore people in the environment. Hey, don't pay attention to the people, me, 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 not the people, me, me, me. For more nervous dogs, it's really important that they don't start bad behavior, right? Because a lot of the bad behavior rooted in anxiety in young dogs is self-reinforcing over time.